If you're new here, welcome. I'm Tangi, the Feel Good Expert. You're about to watch a full lesson from my signature course, Think Like a Reader, where I teach human design enthusiasts how to think like a professional chart reader and apply human design with confidence. I created this curriculum after nearly a decade of reading charts and teaching students, specifically to address where people tend to get stuck when learning how to interpret this complex system. It was originally developed as a paid program, and I am now releasing it publicly, lesson by lesson, for free here on YouTube. If you are following along with the course, make sure you subscribe so you are notified as each weekly lesson drops. And now let's get into today's lesson. Welcome back to the Human Design Starter Kit. Today's lesson is on definition, meaning what energy centers are colored in a chart and how do those energy centers communicate with each other. This will be a quick lesson just to give you a broad overview of what definition is and a few pointers that you may use in readings going forward. So we do have 5 different types of definition. And so when you pull up a chart, you'll see in the chart property, there is a line called definition, and it will say one of these 5 things. Single definition, meaning all energy centers are connected in a continuous flow of active channels. Split definition, meaning there are 2 groups of energy centers. So at least 4 energy centers are defined and they are grouped separately via channel. Triple split, there are 3 groups of energy centers, meaning there are at least 6 energy centers defined, and there are 3 minimum groups of 2. Can be more than 2, but 3 minimum groups with 3 splits. Quadruple split, 4 groups of energy centers and no definition. That would be a reflector type, no defined energy centers. So our first one, all energy centers are connected in a continuous flow of active channels. Here's an example for you. We see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 energy centers are colored in, and we can follow the path via channel to make sure that they are communicating with each other in a continuous flow. So we start with the solar plexus. There is a channel here taking us to the root center. And then there is a channel here taking us to the spleen center, a channel to the sacral, and the same channel taking us up to the throat center. So that is a single definition body graph. The next one is a split definition. That means there are 2 groups of energy centers. You can have a normal split or a wide split. So this is a normal split, meaning one gate will complete the flow of energy. A lot of times people will look for that completion in partners, in transits, in environments. You can see here, we start with the solar plexus, we go down, we're colored in the root, we go to the spleen and the ego center. Those are all connected in a continuous flow, but there isn't a channel that defines the throat to the rest of the energy centers. The throat is defined via the ajna. So the splits would be gate 45 here, right? So if the ego center was able to flow right to the throat. Also here, gate 10, gate 20, gate 16, lots of different options. And we could even define over here in gate 22, lots of different options to bridge that split. So it's called a simple split or small split. So they've got a group here that is communicating seamlessly, and then they've got a group of 4 down here separately. That is a split. A wide split means there would need an entire channel to complete that split. This person has a group of energy centers at the bottom here, the root defining to the sacral, and then we would need a whole channel to get to this ego center or more, a minimum of a channel or more, to get the ego to throat definition connected to the sacral to root definition. So that is considered a wide split. Quick note before we continue, if you are watching this and realizing you want to go deeper or move faster, this entire course is already available inside my Chart Readers Hub, along with live calls, past masterclass replays, and an active reader community. You'll find the link in the description below. The next is a triple split definition, meaning there are 3 groups of energy centers. So I'm going to point out those 3 groups in this chart. Starting with the solar plexus, we go down to the root and then over to the spleen. This is one set because you can see there is a split there that keeps us from moving into the next energy center, and splits here as well. Now we've got the sacral that defines up into the G center, also up into the throat, also the G center to throat connection. So all 3 of these are one group of energy centers. And then we have the splits here, 23 and 56. And then we've got the crown and ajna connection talking to each other. So 3 different groups of energy centers is a triple split. And you'll see the points of split here pointed out. So in an advanced reader software, it might outline the gates that of the split. If it takes an entire channel, it won't define that for you. And obviously, if there is no definition, you won't see that there, or single definition. So here's a few of the places where that energy is split. And then the next one is a quadruple split. And it's very hard to lay out all of the different areas of split in a quadruple split. So we just look at the way that the energy centers are defined. So again, we have the solar plexus to the root, and then that is just one group. You'll see the splits as that doesn't continuously flow to any other group of energy centers. So there's that one. And now we have what is defining the sacral to the G center via that channel. Okay, that's a split. We have the ego to the spleen. That's a split. And then we have these 3 together. That's another group of energy centers. So 4 different groups of energy centers in this chart. That's what makes it a quadruple split. Lastly, we have no definition. So this is what a reflector chart will look like. Will always look like having no energy centers colored in and no channels defined, meaning there is no possibility for split. So a few tips that you might be able to use when you are reading charts. Single definition is typically a very independent person, individual in nature, and is able to make decisions without external input. All of that energy is happening in a continuous flow for them. Split definition has a split or incomplete quality. The bridging gates will usually be the greatest source of conditioning for them. So if you can put words to those specific gates and say, this is not self for you, that is super helpful for someone with a split definition, especially if there is just a few gates that would bridge that split for them. Triple split, the open or undefined centers in that chart will be the greatest source of conditioning because they do have a lot of definition and they do have a lot of split. So that can be distracting. It'd be hard to focus in on. So typically with a triple split, they're going to have 1 or 2 energy centers that are undefined, and those are going to be the energy centers that are most distracting for them. Quadruple split, they will have 8 to 9 centers defined. And so this person will likely have difficulty managing their energy because they're creating so much energy. So their source of conditioning, usually their emotional authority, unless that is the one center that they have undefined, their conditioning will be around how much energy they create, how much space they take up, how much time it takes them to move energy. Lastly, no definition. For a reflector, environments and relationships will be the conditioners because they are absorbing and amplifying all of that energy. So the suggestion for a reflector with no definition is to find those energy anchors, to find the lunar cycles and understand how that impacts their energy, to find the transits and understand how that creates an impact, to compare and contrast this environment versus that one, this relationship versus that one, so they can begin to understand that they are reading energy all of the time and they can begin to anchor into their own energy. So hopefully this was clear and helpful in understanding the definition in human design. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.
On the screen, you'll see the lessons I recommend watching next based on your learning path. If something in this lesson shifted the way you're thinking, I'd love to hear what stood out to you most. You can share that in the comments. Liking the video and subscribing helps this course continue reaching the people it's meant for, and the questions subscribers ask here often shape what I teach next. Lastly, if you want to study this work inside a live reader community, you'll find Chart Readers Hub is linked in the description.